The continued adventures of playing in a musical theater production band or orchestra for the first time. Hunchback of Notre Dame, keyboard 2. Previously, I have groused about having to fit 305 patch changes called for by this score onto an instrument with 172 save slots. And there are so many patch changes because keyboard 2, in this show in particular, but apparently kind of in general, is a catch-all role. Whatever instrument the orchestrator or composer wants for a given song but isn't available in the ensemble, the keyboard emulates. And so I'm a harp, I'm a pipe organ, I'm church bells, a lot of different things, and often changing rapidly within a single song. Getting this many patches onto this instrument was a challenge, but it was fun, and I basically done it. I have a extremely detailed Google Doc that took me like 40 hours to get through, between that and diving into the reference manuals for this keyboard and actually implementing it all, but it's done. Sometimes I'm crossing right over left to play bell parts down here at the very end of the keyboard. Other times I'm going the other direction and playing bass way up here. But fundamentally, interesting challenge, and I got through it. I'm ready to go. So if I'm over the hump, what am I here to talk about? Well, I still have a beef, a grievance, a complaint about the way the publishers of this score specify what all those patches are supposed to be. Because I can understand having an extensive list of instruments that need to be emulated in order. But what they seem to have done in this show, and apparently I guess this is fairly common, is not to list what types of instruments are to be emulated at any given time, but to provide notes about what precise patches the original Broadway keyboardist used. And they are very, very specific to an individual person's keyboard rig. What does that look like? I'm so glad you asked. At the beginning of each song, there is a list of all the patches in that song. And then throughout the song itself, there are these boxes that provide a bit more detail. Some of these are very reasonable. Harp sample. That I can work with that. Anyone can work with that. Blue carpet. What? What is blue carpet? Well, the first occurrence of blue carpet in the score happens to provide the additional detail that it is from Logic. Logic and Main Stage, which seem to be used pretty interchangeably here, are Apple software, music production software. Logic is generally the studio-oriented DAW workstation side of things, and Main Stage is a performance-oriented application, but both come with apparently this pretty robust preset library of sounds, and Blue Carpet is one of them. I still can't tell what type of sound Blue Carpet is from this, and I don't have an Apple computer, so I start looking around on Google, and I discover people referencing it as a pad. Okay, a synth pad is a pretty fundamental concept. It sounds with generally slow attacks and decays that are meant to be kind of background elements that play chords usually. That kind of thing. I have a number of options here on this keyboard in factory presets. Not bad. This sort of thing. What exactly does Blue Carpet sound like though? I don't know. I keep looking and I find actually quite a few like video shorts where people are talking about it. Like, I found this great pad and I'm using it in all the songs in my worship service. But no one ever like presses the button and shows what it sounds like. Driving me crazy. I never got an answer to this. Blue Carpet is used so many times throughout this show, so I just used my best judgment and put whatever I thought sounded right at the time there. So I've been able to make it work, but why should I have to make this work? Another initially indecipherable set of patch names. MS set 2-4, parentheses Hauptwerk. This is specified a number of different ways in the score. Sometimes it's just MS something numbers, sometimes it's Hauptwerk, but a little bit of Googling turned up that Hauptwerk is an organ VST, or an organ sampler that's included with Logic and Mainstage. And this is Hunchback of Notre Dame, cathedral, pipe organs. We have a lot of this sort of thing. And honestly, that is like my favorite part of this show to play. I'm a little disappointed that I don't have a lot of options on this keyboard for different organ sounds. It's got a full bank of 16 organ sounds, but a lot of them are like rock organ type of. That's not right for this kind of show. I basically have two options. I have sort of a light sound, and then I have the Phantom of the Opera type sound. But I kind of like that a lot. Then there's a third category of patches that are still part of the Apple software ecosystem, which is most inscrutable to me, which is the percussion kits. Like here in the song Rhythm of the Tambourine, we have Indian and Middle Eastern kit. So this keyboard can, in fact, emulate a percussion section. It has settings that I can tweak and program to assign different drums to different keys. So presumably I could do this kind of thing, but there is no indication of what type of drum sound is mapped to which line or space on the staff. So I have no way to translate what's in here and know what it is remotely supposed to sound like. I mean, I know I can read the basic rhythm, but for the song Rhythm of the Tambourine, is one of these a tambourine? Which one? Who knows? Finally, quite a few of the patches are not dependent on necessarily on the Apple ecosystem, but on the Native Instruments ecosystem. Primarily, I think exclusively, they call for either Native Instruments Massive or Native Instruments FM8, both of which are software synthesizers. And I have actually a bunch of Native Instruments for my own purposes in making spooky fairy music. So as I started looking through the score and encountering these, at first I was really relieved. The very first song calls for ethereal, in parentheses, massive factory patch. So I'm thinking, great, I can just pull this up. Here's massive. Go to the preset browser, search for ethereal, double click on it, and see what it sounds like. Okay, that's like a choir type sound. I can work with that. I've got choir type sounds here. So I layer a choir sound in with bells as this patch calls for. All right, there we go. Great. I was feeling really good about these Native Instruments based patches in the score then. But turns out that first one is just about the only one that is a factory preset. The others are all custom patches, either written by or collected by the keyboardist from whom this score is transcribed. On the very second song, we have Soft EP FM8. So I pull up FM8, type Soft EP into this browser, and there's nothing. Sure enough, throughout the rest of the score, there are plenty of references to Massive and FM8 patches, but they always say custom. Here's another one, Quiet Poly Mass, custom. Reed Synth Mass, FM8, custom. Soft EP, at least that one's easy to understand. Electric piano, EP, that's a common concept. It can mean something like a Fender Rhodes kind of thing, or it can mean more like an 80s electronic piano. Use your common sense given the context of what we're doing. But then a lot of these are just kind of ambiguous, like Quiet Poly Mass. So I assume Quiet Poly Mass, MAS, and then parentheses massive, that this MAS indicates that it's massive, and that'll be relevant in a minute. but poly is not as meaningful a term as EP in this world. Like, there are monosynths versus polysynths, but that's generally like an analog synthesizer type distinction we're making. Like, a polysynth sounds like, that's like, you know, the Stranger Things soundtrack or synthwave music. It's not really a Broadway musical kind of sound, so I'm really not sure where they're getting at. But then some of these things are just absolute nonsense. Torim Tora $mass? I mean, like, I think MAS indicates massive. Turn to the page where it actually switches to that patch, and we have Torim Tora $mass parentheses FM8 custom. What? Okay. There is no preset in the factory libraries of FM8 or Massive with anything remotely like that name. I Google extensively and eventually find other people who have played this score have deduced that it is a marimba type patch. Okay. So with a lot of Google and a bit of just deduction, I've got it. I'm feeling good about the show. But my fundamental complaint is, why is MTI or any other publisher, rights holder of a musical, publishing materials that are so dependent on something as specific and idiosyncratic as the original keyboardist's setup? I can kind of accept that, okay, Apple, Logic and Mainstage, is such an entrenched part of the musical theater world that, okay, that's assumed. I don't like that either, but then Native Instruments also, so you're totally dependent on these two ecosystems remaining available however far into the future you want to keep producing this show, which I assume is 20, 30, 50 years. Like, Apple's probably not going anywhere, but are they still going to support these same synth plugins? And Native Instruments, they're a big company, but they did just declare bankruptcy 2 months ago. And what seems to have happened is someone has acquired them and is continuing to support their products. But I mean, it's kind of tenuous. Like, why does it work this way? Why didn't they just write the word marimba instead of Torim Tora $?